So I have a few collisions here in my simulation. Let's go ahead and just run through it. And let's hit play. Okay, so what you see here on the right side of my screen is my collision report. Okay, so these are all the collisions taking place, or that have taken place. Okay, you can also see the collisions here in my simulation screen. It's marked red. So let's click on the first one here. So I double click. Okay, so there's my first collision there. Milling tool is sticking out quite a bit, so I can change that by adjusting the stick out or the projection. As I look closely here, this boring bar is using the wrong locator, so I can address that as well. Okay, so on to the next collision, and judging by the same name, I believe it's the same. It's the milling tool with this sheet metal back here. Okay, now this one's a little different. This is tool machine and then machine machine. Double click on that one. Okay, if you notice, all these locators are marked red, so there's something different. Obviously that milling tool is still hitting, but let me turn on my machine housing. So I'm in the home tab, turn on the machine housing. Okay, so not really clear here, kind of. So I need to remove some of these sheet metal from the machine. So I'm going to right click, see how it turns green. So I've selected it, so I want to hide it. So select hidden here. Zoom in a little bit more. And yeah, I can see that the milling tool is hitting this. So I can see that it's hitting back here. Right, so just to drive this home a little bit more, what I'll do is I'll go over to the view tab, access control, that's already turned on. It's actually down here. So I want to move X down, right? So if I move X down, I should be able to clear out that red marking. Okay, so I move the X down so I can see that it's no longer colliding back there. If I index the turret, so let's click on turret here. Now index till I get the tool out of the way. Looks like there's still flagging some collision there. Yeah, so this milling tool now is completely out of the way. So a lot of the issues are stemming from the stick out of the tool. And let's go back to collision report. So let's look back here. And also possibly, and looking at that tool, that cutoff tool can be sticking out quite a bit, so I can adjust that. Let this finish here. So let's go back here. Yeah, so I can also obviously use the correct locator, right, for a tool with an insert down, and maybe change the stick out of the tool or the overall length of the tool. So let's go ahead and do that. So here I use my collision reports to find all the collisions. Again, going through all of them here, I believe all the collisions stem from that tool, that milling tool, and this cutoff tool. So let's close this and let's go back into Mastercam. So I'm going to go over here to set up tools on the machine. So in here, this is my tool setup manager for my turret. Okay. Active turrets, so depending on how many turrets you have on your machine, you can click on the drop down and select which turret you want to see or you want to work with. Here for the display, it's this window here. So notice it says tools used in operations. So all these operations are selected. These are all the tools used. All tools. So there's an extra tool in there that's not loaded in the turret. It is selected in my lathe tool manager. it's just not used. So all tools shows all the tools selected in this Mastercam file. Tools and selected operations, again, this is only if I've chose to simulate or post toolpath group 1. It'll only show me those tools for the selected toolpaths. Okay, so I'll say tools used in operations. Okay, so these are the tools. Over to the right side here, I'll click on the plus sign there. So this is my upper turret. These are the indexes, or the stations in my turret, up to 12 stations. What you see here, for example, on index 5, I have a tool locator. So that's the parent, and the child is going to be the tool that's mounted on the locator. Okay, so if I right click on the index with locator, I can say view component and children. Okay, switch over to solids. So this is my component, this is my component, and this is my child. Okay. Now over here on the bottom left, these are my tool locators. If I hover over a locator, I get a description here, and that's what you see in that message box. Okay. So LID, LIU, lathe insert down. That's what the acronym is for. This is lathe insert up. UT, that's upper turret, and then this is 25 millimeters. So that's the capacity of the tool that can be mounted on this cross-turning locator. Okay, I can manually set up my turret, so I can click and drag, drop one in there, and then I can click and drag the tools if they're not mounted and drop it on the index. Okay. In a separate video, I'll show you how to manually set up your turret before programming. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to adjust the first tool that's been causing most of the problems. It's this 1/2 inch end mill. So for this 1/2 inch end mill, all I want to do is change the stick out. So I'm going to right click on the tool, and I'm going to set a projection length. Okay. So I'm going to click on this arrow, and I'm going to drag it down to about there. So 1.5 inches. Okay. So that's one tool. And now the next tool is going to be the boring bar. So let's adjust the boring bar. So it's tool number 3 here, right? So let's view this. Right, that's the wrong locator. So what I need to do in situations like this is first remove the tool. Okay, once I remove it, over here on the tools used on the machine, you can see that there's a label telling me that it's not loaded. So that's because I removed it. So I need to remove the tool from the locator so I can then remove the locator from the turret. So I'll right click and remove that. Okay, so again, I'm in index number 3, and what I'm looking for is for a boring bar holder for the right spindle. Okay, so here I'm going with a 40 millimeter boring bar for the right spindle. Okay, there we go. Now we need to load a static tool, and that's this tool here. Drag and drop it. Okay, now let's right click and set projection length. Yep. Okay, so that's a little stubby. I'll go ahead and stick it out quite a bit. Let's go up to 1 inch. Right. So the boring bar is done. Now let's address the cutoff tool. So again, what I'll do is right click, remove, and then remove the tool locator. Okay, so this inserts down, so I'm going to go with this 25 millimeter cross turning lathe insert down. Okay, Now let's go to tool 11, and I believe I want to modify the length here, right? So, but let's just look at it first. Okay, loaded the tool. Now let's view component and children. Alright, so this locator will work. However, I'm going to adjust the overall length of this cutoff tool. Okay, so in order to do that, I need to right click, remove it, go over here to this window, right click, edit tool. I'm going to change the holder. So looking at this diagram here, for B, 7 inches, right? So let's say this is 5 inches. I'll hit OK here. OK to that message. Now I'll click and drag the tool. Okay, so this should be 2 inches shorter, so this should fix the problem that we had with that milling tool hitting the back of the machine. Okay, so let's go here and let's just view the component and children. Right, that looks a lot better. Okay, and at the end, I can right click on the upper turret here, do the same thing, view component and children. Okay, that looks a lot better. Okay, correct locators. Yeah, this boring bar, that hole is a little big, but in reality, I'm looking for collision out here, right? Collision with the locator and with the boring bar. If there's a sleeve in there, I really don't need it in simulation. Okay. Right, so let's run simulation. Okay, here we are. Let me turn off the machine housing. Okay. And so I'll go top view, and let's go front view here. Right, so it's looking good so far, no collisions. Very good. So essentially what I want to show here is use simulation to break down your problems, right? If you're getting collisions, use the collision report, find out where you're having those problems. Use the axis control so you can move your machine around so you can see how much you need to adjust. Treat this like a physical machine. In the next video, I want to show you how to use reference points and also how to set up a turret before you start programming toolpaths.